You said something hurtful to someone you love. You felt terrible. You apologized. You promised yourself you will never do it again. But then, after 6 months, same fight, same words, same pattern. Or maybe it's not a relationship. Maybe it's your job. You left one toxic workplace and somehow ended up in another one. That felt exactly the same. Or a habit you quit 3 times and came back again and again every time. You have read the books. You have done the therapy. You have journaled it. You know intellectually what you should be doing differently. And yet something keeps putting you back to it, the same situation in the same loop. Why? Patanjali answered this question 2500 years ago. One word, avidya. And more importantly, he gave us the way out of it. Before we go deeper into avidya, I want to give you a full map because avidya does not work alone. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra identifies 5 root causes of human suffering. He calls them the kleshas, the afflictions, the things that colors every thoughts, every choices, every relationship without you even realizing it where they are. Avidya, mistaken perception, the root, the soil in which everything else grows. Second one is asmita, over-identification with ego. I am my job. I am my reputation. I am what people think about me. Third is the raga, attachment, the clinging, the desperate holding on when something feels good. Fourth is dvesh, aversion, the pushing away, the avoidance of anything uncomfortable. And the last one is abhinivesh, the fear of loss, of ending, of not existing. We'll go into each of them one by one. But the first one, avidya, because without understanding avidya, none of the others make sense. They are all in one way or another children of the same root. Most people translate avidya as ignorance, that is without knowledge. And people hear that and think it is okay. So I just need to learn more, read more, understand more, and then patterns will stop. But here is what I want to really hear. Avidya is not about lacking information. I have met people with 3 degrees, successful careers, people who have read every self-help books, even written, still stuck in the same loop, still repeating the same patterns, still suffering the same way. Because avidya is not about what you know. It's about what you make mistakes of. Patanjali says avidya operates in 4 specific ways. And I want you to go through each one slowly. Because I think you will recognize yourself in all 4. The first, mistaking the impermanent for permanent. Think about the last time you were really happy. Maybe it was a holiday. Maybe it was your new relationship in its earlier stages. Maybe it was the week after you got the job you really wanted. And somewhere in that happiness, underneath it, there was a quiet anxiety. Please don't let this end. Please let it stay like this. You were not just enjoying the movements. You were gripping it, trying to freeze it. And of course, it ended. Or changed. And the loss of its hurt far more than it should have. Because somewhere you had decided it was supposed to stay. That was the first layer of avidya. You know intellectually that the holidays would end. But emotionally you have treated it as if it was permanent. And your suffering when it passed was proportional to that misidentification. This plays out everywhere. The person who cannot retire, not because they needed the money, but because their entire identity is built around their jobs, the titles. If I am not the director, who am I? The job felt permanent. The self built around it felt permanent. Or simpler, the mood. You wake up in a good mood and by 10 a.m. something small happened, a message, a comment, a small disappointment, and suddenly the whole day feels ruined. Because the good mood felt like reality. Its departures feels like loss. But it was never going to stay. No mood does. Avidya made it feel like it should. Second, mistaking pain for pleasure. This one is more subtle and more uncomfortable. Have you ever stayed in a situation that was clearly hurting you and been unable to leave it? Not because you did know it was hurting you. You know, your friend told you, part of you knew it, but something kept you there. It could be your relationship, where the arguments had become familiar, where the tension had become a kind of company, where the drama, as painful as it was, also made you feel alive, made you feel needed, made you feel like you were fighting for something and that felt meaningful. Or a job that exhausted you, disrespected you, but the busyness of it, the stress of it had become your identity. When the weekend came and there was a silence, you felt lost. The pain had become the texture of your life and without it, you didn't know what to do. Or the most ordinary version, your phone. You pick it up knowing it will not give you whatever you are looking for. You are scrolling for 20 minutes and felt worse. And you pick it up again because the reaching for it feels like relief. Even though it never actually relieved. Patanjali is saying the nervous system shaped the avidya. Can learn to seek pain because it has been packaged as familiarities. And familiarity is feeling safe. And the safe feels like good. This is why people don't leave what hurts them. Not because they are weak, because avidya has convinced them the pain is actually something else. Mistaking the impure for pure. And I want to be clear, this is not a moral statement. Patanjali is not talking about sin. He is talking about something much more everyday. Think about a story you tell yourself about yourself. I am someone who does not need help. I handle things on my own. Sounds strong, right? Sounds like a virtue, but look underneath it. And sometimes you find a person who was taught very early that asking for help was weakness, that needed other was dangerous. The self-sufficiency looks pure. It looks like a strength, but it is covering a wound. Or I am very direct person. I say what I think. And yes, honesty is good. But sometimes underneath that is someone who never learned to hold back, to pause, to consider the other person's experience. The bluntness feels like integrity, but it has caused damage. The quality that feels like a strength is also carrying something else clean. We all have these. The stories about ourselves that feels true, feels positive, feels like identity. And underneath them is something more complicated. Avidya makes us see these constructions as pure truth, as just who we are. And because we cannot see through them, we cannot grow past them. And the fourth one is the deepest, mistaking what is not self for self. This is one I want to spend the most time on, because this is where everything else came from. Let me ask you something where you are embarrassed, really embarrassed. Where do you feel it? In your chest, your face goes warm, your stomach tightens, and that movement, you don't feel like a person who is having an emotional called embarrassment. You feels like you are the embarrassment. It has taken over you completely. Or anger when you are really angry. You don't experience yourself as a person who is feeling anger. The anger is you in that movement. There is no distance between you and it. Now, an hour later, the anger passes and you look back and think, why did I say that? Why did I react like that? As if from the outside, you can see it clearly, but from the inside, there was no outside. There was only the feeling that is avidya at its deepest, the complete identification with what is passing through you, as if it was you and it goes much further than emotions. I am a failure, not I failed at this thing. I am a failure, the event became the identity. I am not a morning person. I find morning difficult right now. I am not a morning person, a habit because the self and every time the same dynamic, the same feeling of having to earn my place, of working hard to be accepted, of feeling like I was one mistake away from being left. And I could not understand it. From outside, I could see the pattern, but from the inside, every single time, I was convinced that this was reality, not a pattern. When I started doing deeper self-study, I began to trace it and I found something sitting very quietly underneath everything. A belief formed very early in the life. The love was conditional. Okay, I'm going to believe this. It formed in me before I had that language. Before we close, something to do today, not later. Today, take a paper, not your phone, and write down one pattern that keeps repeating in your life. One reaction, one dynamic, one situation that comes back regardless of what do you do and who you are with. Below it, write one question only. When did I first feel this? Not the most recent time. The first time you go back as far as you can. You may not get a clear answer immediately. This is completely fine. Just asking the question sincerely, that itself is swadhyaya. That itself is a beginning of something. Now close your eyes and sit with your spine tall. One slow breath in and release. Inwardly, quietly ask yourself, what am I most identified with right now? That might not actually be me. Don't answer, just hold the question. Let it sit. After 2 minutes, take a pause and slowly come back. Avidya is not a flaw. It is not your fault. It's a fundamental condition of being human, of being in a mind, in a body, in a world that is constantly changing while we are trying to hold things still. Every single person carries this. The most evolved people you admire carry this. The work is not to eliminate it overnight. The work is to keep seeing it, keep noticing it, keep creating that small gap between who you are and what you are experiencing. Because Patanjali says, avidya is the field in which all sufferings grow. When avidya weakens, everything else begins to shift. The pattern lose their grip. The loops begin to break, not all at once, but steadily. The way light comes in, not through one large opening, but through many small cracks. You are already doing the work. The fact that you are asking these questions, that is Vivek waking up in you. Hari.